My name is Casey Wilhelm. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one. The daughter who didn't make trouble, who learned early to make herself small so other people's storms could pass. If you'd asked me a year ago what my parents' love looked like, I would have said, dependable in theory, conditional in practice. I just didn't have the language for it yet. A week before my son's birthday, my dad texted, "We can't make it this year. Money's tight." No emojis, no apology, just a period. I showed the message to my boyfriend Daniel while we were at the kitchen counter finishing the party list. We'd already decided on something low-key: a park, 2 folding tables, dollar store balloons, and a chocolate cake with Eli's name piped in a slightly wobbly line. Eli is 10, kind, literal, and thoughtful in that way that makes you want to build the world softer around him. He'd said he didn't need presents. He just wanted his grandparents there. I texted my mom separately, telling her to come anyway, money or not. "Just bring yourselves. Coffee's on me." She sent back a thumbs up, the laziest form of love. Daniel watched me hover over my phone. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I lied, because that's a language I speak fluently. Inside, something scraped the nerve that runs between hope and suspicion. My parents' story didn't feel right, but doubting them still felt like blasphemy. The morning of Eli's birthday arrived with sunshine that felt performative. Eli sat at the table with cereal, swinging his feet, debating whether to bring his scooter to the park as if he were negotiating a peace treaty. "Scooter or soccer ball, Mom?" "Both," I said, ruffling his hair. "We'll make it work." Out of habit, I opened Instagram. Laura, my older sister, was live. Laura goes live the way some people breathe. I should have scrolled past. I should have spared myself. But I tapped. The stream opened to chaos in primary colors. A giant bounce house, red and blue like a shouting bruise, children tumbling in shrieks of sugar-high joy. The camera jerked and landed on a buffet table crowded with cupcakes topped with custom cartoon characters. A magician in a glitter vest shuffled cards. A clown adjusted a balloon sword. And then, like my past reaching out to pull me by the throat, my dad, laughing, carrying a tray of cupcakes. My mom behind him, draping a metallic fringe banner that said, "Let's party." I didn't breathe. On instinct, my thumb hovered over the screen as if the angle might change the truth. Eli leaned closer, his shoulder warm against mine. "Is that Grandma and Grandpa?" "Yeah," I said. The word felt like a swallow of ice. He was quiet for a beat, then softer. "Don't they need me?" I stared at the light glowing from the screen, the party that was happening without us, at us. "They should," I said. My voice sounded far away. Daniel glanced up from packing the picnic basket. He caught the look on my face and didn't ask. He just closed the lid calmly, the way he does when storms muscle their way toward us. Silent, steady, a harbor. I set the phone face down. For a second, all I could hear was the hollow thud of my pulse in my ears. I kept replaying my dad's text, "Money's tight," against the clown's painted grin and the bounce house scaffolding, the kind you book weeks in advance. Not anger, not yet. Something colder. The sensation of a puzzle piece locking and realizing it completes a picture you never wanted to see. At the park, we staged joy anyway. Daniel grilled hot dogs and queued up Eli's favorite playlist on a little speaker. Eli blew out candles on a store-bought cake, while our friends cheered like it was the moon landing. I smiled hard enough to blur my vision. Each time I checked my phone, I half expected a new message. "We're on our way," or "surprise. We made it." Nothing. Just Laura's replay, her world perfectly saturated, ours in measured grayscale. I've always been the one who makes allowances. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they were pulled into something they couldn't escape. Maybe the live was from last week, except I recognized the date on the chalkboard sign behind the gift table. "Happy Back to School Bash." A bash with face painting and a photo booth for my sister's kids. When we got home, Eli unpacked his small pile of gifts and started building a Lego police station. He hummed under his breath, a tune made of concentration and trying not to feel alone. I washed paper plates off habit and threw them away wet. Daniel dried his hands and looked at me. "Say it," he murmured, "whatever it is." "It's not the party," I heard my voice before I knew the sentence. "It's the choice." He nodded, like he already knew. "Do you want me to call them?" "No." The word came out steady for once. "I want to do something I don't undo in the morning." I grabbed my laptop from the drawer that holds things you don't want to think about. Old letters, expired coupons, the ghost of who I was at 20. I logged into the email we'd used for years to communicate with my parents' landlord. The monthly check image sat in a neat digital row. $950, sent like clockwork, for over 3 years. Rent, groceries, emergency dental work for Laura, her twins' birthday gift, 2 sudden tire replacements, the Christmas we covered the utilities so they wouldn't freeze. None of this had ever been framed as help. It was obligation, a family tax only I seemed to pay. I took a screenshot of the most recent cleared check. I opened a new email, addressed it to my parents, CC'd to their landlord. I stared at the subject line field, fingers trembling, not with doubt, but with a sudden electric clarity. Subject returned to sender. In the body, I didn't write threats or long explanations. I've learned that explanations are invitations to be debated. I typed, "We will no longer be responsible for your rent or expenses. Please update your records. Casey." I attached the screenshot, not as proof, but as a mirror. No more pretending the generous thing was invisible. My cursor hovered over send. Eli laughed from the living room, the kind of real laugh that reaches his whole face. I thought of him standing behind me that morning, the way he asked, "Don't they need me?" and how I had no answer that didn't cut. Daniel stood beside me without touching, his presence enough. "You're sure?" he asked softly. "I'm sure," I said. The certainty felt like stepping into shoes that had always been my size. I clicked send. For a long minute, nothing happened. The room seemed to widen, like air finally reached places that had been starved of it. I closed the laptop and slid it back into the drawer. Underneath was an old brass key on a blue ribbon, my parents' spare to our front door, given to them when Eli was a baby for emergencies. I'd never asked for it back. That had been my mistake. I stood, crossed to the entryway, and stared at the deadbolt. A memory rose. Me at 22, my mother insisting the key would make us more connected, my father nodding, like a judge, stamping approval on a petition. I'd said yes then because I didn't know how to say no. I reached up now and slid the chain lock across the frame, a small sound that felt louder than any speech. That night, Eli asked if Grandma and Grandpa were coming tomorrow. I told him the truth. "Not tomorrow, sweetie." "Okay," he said, too bravely. He held up the card he'd made for my dad. Crayon hearts, crooked and gorgeous. "Can we keep it anyway?" "Of course." I tucked it into the top drawer of my bedside table like a relic, like a warning. My phone buzzed once. A heart from my mom on a photo I'd posted of Eli's cake. No words, just the smallest possible gesture, the kind that demands you craft meaning for it. I went to bed with the weight of the day settling behind my eyes. Daniel wrapped an arm around my waist. I lay awake and listened to the quiet of our house. The refrigerator's soft hum, Eli's distant, even breaths, the whisper of leaves outside. The quiet I used to hate began to feel like the first honest thing in a long time. At 9:02 a.m. the next morning, the knocking started. Not a neighbor's polite tap, not a delivery driver's thud and run. This was relentless, knuckle-on-wood insistence, the hammering of someone who thought their need outranked our boundaries. Daniel was in the hallway before I'd even sat up. The knocking didn't pause. Then a sound I recognized down to the marrow, metal sliding into metal, a key turning against our lock. The door jolted hard against the chain, yanked short with a sharp metallic clack. The chain held. Silence, then my dad's voice on the other side, flat, expectant. "Casey, open up. We need to talk." Daniel looked at me. I nodded once. My heartbeat was a small animal in a trap, but my feet felt steady on the floorboards. I reached for my robe, tied the belt twice, and walked toward the door. This time, I would decide how far it opened. This time, I wouldn't explain. This time, the chain stays. The chain rattled as my father's hand twisted the knob again. The sound vibrated through the door like a reminder of every boundary I'd failed to keep. Daniel's voice was calm, measured. "You need to leave," he called out. My dad ignored him. "Casey, we're not doing this. Open the door. You can't just—" The sentence broke off in a frustrated sigh. My mother's softer voice followed, trembling in that way she used to when she wanted pity. "Sweetheart, please. Let's just talk. We brought breakfast." I stood there for a few seconds, the cold tile under my feet grounding me. Then I slid the chain free and opened the door, just enough. They looked smaller than I remembered, but not sorry. My mother held a pink pastry box like an olive branch, her lipstick smudged from nerves. My father's eyes darted past me to Daniel, who stood a few feet back, arms folded, silent but ready. The air outside smelled like dew and denial. "Why lie?" I asked. No small talk, no "good morning." My dad blinked, thrown. "It wasn't a lie, not exactly. Just bad timing. We didn't mean to hurt anyone." "Bad timing?" My voice cracked in disbelief. "You said you couldn't afford to come, and then you threw a carnival." My mom's tone sharpened, the performance dropping. "It wasn't a carnival. It was just a little thing for the kids starting school. Laura wanted help, and you gave it," I finished, "like you always do." She flinched. My father straightened, trying to reclaim authority. "Don't start that again. You've always had a roof over your head, a good man, a good job. Your sister's been struggling. It's not the same." I laughed, but it came out wrong, half a choke, half a sob. "You mean it's easier to take from the one who doesn't ask for anything?" He frowned. "That's not fair." I stepped closer, keeping the door half blocked with my shoulder. "You're right. Fair would have been showing up when your grandson asked for you. Fair would have been not lying about money while cashing the checks we sent every month." For the first time, my mother looked nervous. "We didn't think you'd make such a big deal out of this," she murmured. "It's just one party." "One party?" I repeated quietly. "You missed his birthday, Dad. He asked if you didn't need him anymore." Something flickered in my father's eyes. Guilt, maybe, but he looked away too fast to tell. My mom stepped forward, holding the pastry box like it could erase everything. "Here, sweetheart, we brought these for Eli. Chocolate eclair, his favorite." Daniel's voice cut through the doorway before I could answer. "We're good, thank you." She froze, realizing for the first time that he wasn't going to smooth things over this time. My dad shifted his weight, lowering his tone. "Casey, listen, you've made your point. But threatening us with the rent? That's not right. We're family. We work things out." "I didn't threaten you," I said evenly. "I stopped paying." He bristled. "After everything we've done for you?" That was it. The spark that lit years of dry resentment. "Everything you've done for me?" I repeated. "I paid your rent. I covered your groceries, your bills, Laura's car repairs, your medical copay, and your holidays. What exactly have you done for me?" My mom's lips pressed together. "We raised you." "Raised me to what? Apologize for existing?" The words came out colder than I expected. My hands were shaking, but I didn't hide it. For once, the trembling felt like honesty. My dad's jaw tightened. "You're acting like money is everything. We didn't ask you to." "Yes, you did," I snapped. Every month in different words. He took a step forward, but the door stopped him. "You keep this attitude up, Casey, and maybe we should talk about consequences." My stomach dropped. Consequences? He looked me dead in the eye. The will. Daniel took a step closer then, his voice low but steady. "You should go." My father hesitated, caught between pride and fear. My mom looked between us, her expression sliding into something almost pleading. "You're overreacting, honey. This isn't worth breaking the family apart." "It already is broken," I said. "You just didn't notice until I stopped paying for the glue." Silence, the kind that hurts to breathe in. Finally, my father huffed. "Fine, if that's how you want it." He turned to leave, muttering, "This is ridiculous." My mom lingered a second longer. "Your sister's going to be heartbroken. She's an adult. She can manage her own heartbreak." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She followed my father down the steps, her pastry box still unopened. I closed the door. The click of the latch felt final. Daniel's arms wrapped around me from behind, grounding me before the crash of adrenaline could. "You okay?" he whispered. "No," I said truthfully, "but I think I will be." We stood like that for a while, both of us listening to the muffled sound of their car starting, then fading away. When it was finally quiet, I reached up and slid the chain lock back into place. The sound was soft, almost polite, but it felt like thunder in my chest. That night, Eli drew a picture of us, 3 stick figures holding balloons. He handed it to me proudly. "Next year, can we go to the arcade instead?" "Yeah," I said, smiling. "We'll make it even better." He grinned. "No clowns, though." "No clowns," I promised. Later, when the house was dark, I stood by the window, watching the porch light reflect off the chain lock. It gleamed like a line between old guilt and new freedom. For the first time, I didn't feel trapped behind the door. I felt protected by it. By morning, the storm had moved online. It started with a notification. "Laura Wilhelm tagged you in a post." I should have ignored it. I should have gone on making Eli's lunch, kept scrolling past it like every other quiet betrayal we're trained to swallow. But curiosity, that cruel twin of hope, made me tap. Her post was a screenshot of my email, the one with the rent check attached and the subject line, "Return to sender." Above it, she'd written, "When jealousy runs the family, some people can't stand to see others happy." And below that, a carousel of smiling photos from the bounce house party. My parents, my sister, her twins, all glowing with the same brightness money can buy. The comments came fast. "Some people just love drama. Imagine punishing your own parents. Isn't she the one who never visits anyway?" By the time I reached the end of the thread, my phone buzzed like a dying insect. Calls, messages, group chats reignited from digital graves, distant cousins, old coworkers, numbers I hadn't saved since high school. Everyone suddenly had an opinion about my ungrateful behavior. Daniel walked in, coffee in hand, his expression tightening when he saw my face. "What happened?" "They made me the villain," I said, my voice flat, "publicly." He set the mug down and came closer, scanning the post. "You want me to call her?" "No," I said quietly. "I want to see how far they go." The screen lit again. Texts from my aunt, my uncle's wife, my mom's sister. Most started the same way. "This isn't how your mother raised you," or "Family should stay together no matter what." I muted each chat without replying. Silence wasn't weakness anymore, it was armor. But there was one message that stopped me cold. A simple text from Aunt Millie, my dad's older sister. "You did the right thing, Casey. It's about time someone did." I stared at it for a long time, a flicker of light in a dark hallway. Then I turned the phone face down and exhaled. The war outside could rage all it wanted. Inside, I was done fighting for peace I never had. That night, Daniel made dinner, spaghetti and garlic bread, and pretended not to notice that I'd barely eaten. Eli showed me a drawing he made in school, 3 stick figures under a lemon tree, smiling. "This is us," he said. "Where's Grandma and Grandpa?" I asked softly. He shrugged. "They're not here today." Something in his tone broke me more than any online post could. Children don't lie. They just mirror what they're given. After Eli went to bed, I opened Daniel's old laptop. I knew what I was looking for before I even found it. A spreadsheet he'd kept quietly over the years. Every transaction we'd made for my parents and for Laura. $950, rent X, 36 months, $5,000 for Laura's moving expenses, $1,200 in car repairs, $600 emergency loan for Christmas, $300 dental bill, $150 here, $200 there. The total at the bottom stared back like a confession. $15,850. I scrolled through the list, remembering every thank you that never came. I thought about how easily they'd erased all of it with a single Facebook post, and then I felt something unexpected. Relief. There's freedom in evidence. Once you see the math, the manipulation loses its magic. Daniel came up behind me, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to look at that," he murmured. "I do," I said. "I need to see what they took." He nodded, kissed the top of my head, and turned off the lamp. "Then look once, and then we're done with them." When he went to bed, I sat in the dark, the only light from the laptop screen. I whispered to no one, "That's it, no more." But somewhere deep down, I knew better. Karma doesn't knock once, it circles. The next few days blurred together. Family group chats turned into battlegrounds. My sister's friends shared her post on their stories with captions like, "Toxic energy removed," and "Protect your peace, girl." The irony made me laugh out loud, quietly, bitterly. By Thursday, Laura escalated. She wrote another post. "I don't have a sister anymore. I'm done being punished for being happy." 100 likes. Hearts. "Proud of you for setting boundaries." One comment read, "Boundaries. The same word they weaponized against me." That night, I sat on the bathroom floor, crying quietly while the faucet ran just loud enough to cover the sound. I wasn't crying for them anymore. I was grieving the version of myself who still believed they'd choose me if I just loved them harder. When I opened the door, Daniel was sitting in the hallway with takeout menus spread across his lap. "Pizza or Chinese?" he asked softly. "Chinese," I said, smiling through tears. He smiled back like that was all that needed to be said. After dinner, I pulled out a folder from the closet, old receipts, photocopies, and an envelope from years ago. Inside was a faded IOU from Laura, written in pink pen. $5,000 for moving. We'll pay back in a year. 7 years had passed. I held the paper up to the light until my hands stopped trembling. Then I folded it neatly and slid it into the trash. Sometimes closure isn't a door slamming. It's an old promise crumpling quietly in your hands. As I turned off the light, I caught my reflection in the dark window, tired but steady. For the first time, I didn't look like someone waiting for their family to love them. I looked like someone finally learning to love herself. And deep in that stillness, I could almost hear the next storm forming. Soft, distant, inevitable. Because peace doesn't come without a price. And mine hadn't been paid yet. Friday morning arrived too quiet. The kind of silence that feels loaded, as if the world is holding its breath before saying something you won't like. I was sipping my second cup of coffee when my email pinged. Subject line, urgent notice, past due rent. I clicked it. It wasn't spam. It was from my parent's landlord. He explained, politely but firmly, that 2 months' rent were unpaid. He'd been lenient because of our previous payment history, but unless we covered the overdue balance, he'd be forced to serve a notice to vacate. My hand tightened around the mug. The irony was bitter enough to taste. They'd gone 2 months without telling me, just quietly waited, confident I'd step in when the warning came. Within an hour, the calls began. First my dad, then my mom, then unknown numbers that could only be relatives drafted into their guilt campaign. I let them ring until the sound became background noise. Daniel came in from the garage, grease on his hands from fixing Eli's old bike. You good? Depends on your definition. I turned the laptop toward him. He read the email once, jaw tightening. And let me guess, they haven't mentioned it? I shook my head. Not yet, but give them time. As if summoned, the phone lit up again. Mom calling. I let it buzz until voicemail picked up. 30 seconds later, another ring. No caller ID. I sighed and answered. Casey? Her voice sounded shaky, rehearsed. What is it, Mom? We didn't want to bother you, she started, her tone wobbling between guilt and strategy. But your father and I are in a bit of a bind. The landlord. I know, I interrupted. He emailed me. Oh, a pause. Well, you understand how hard things have been. Your sister's been struggling, and we've been helping with her twins. So now I'm supposed to help all of you help each other? Silence. Then the shift came. I could always hear it, the moment guilt turned into manipulation. You owe us, Casey, she said softly, for everything we gave you growing up. My stomach turned cold. You mean food and shelter? That's called parenting, not a loan. Her voice cracked into something sharp. Don't take that tone with me. You've changed. I've grown up, I said. There's a difference. She tried again, faster now, desperation showing through. We can pay you back, I swear. Just cover this month. Just this once. Mom, I said quietly, it's never just once. It's every time, every emergency, every excuse. I can't do it anymore. She started crying. Whether real or performed, I couldn't tell. You'll regret this. Family doesn't turn their back like this. I didn't turn my back, I said. I just stopped kneeling. She hung up. For a minute, I just stood there, the dial tone still humming in my ear like a flat line. Daniel walked over and gently took the phone from my hand. Enough, he said. They're not your responsibility. They were my family, I whispered. They still are, he replied, just not your burden. He went to his desk and pulled out our savings folder, the one we'd been adding to, slowly, quietly, for years. It's enough, he said, circling the number on the page. We can get a house, new district, new neighbors, a clean start. The idea landed like sunlight breaking through fog. That evening, while Eli colored at the table, Daniel and I sat on the couch, scrolling through listings. It felt surreal. After years of bailing everyone else out, we were finally planning something for ourselves. Still, that night I couldn't sleep. Guilt has a way of echoing louder than reason. I got up, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water I didn't drink. On the counter sat a stack of unopened mail. Bills, flyers, junk. One envelope stood out, handwritten. No return address. My father's handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a single page. No greeting, no date. We chose her because you were strong. We knew you'd survive without us. She wouldn't. I don't expect forgiveness. You grew up the hardest, the quietest. We knew we were selfish. I just never said it. Dad. No signature, just that. My knees went weak. For a moment I sat on the floor, letter trembling in my hands. Not from sadness, from clarity. It wasn't ignorance that made them hurt me. It was choice. They saw me, they knew, and they still chose her. I folded the letter once, slowly, and slid it into the drawer with the old key they'd never asked to return. Then I closed it, softly but firmly. By the weekend, they were gone. No new calls, no messages, no address left behind. Laura posted a photo of a moving truck and captioned it, "New Beginnings." My mom texted once, "Saw the truck. Thank you. I hope one day you understand." I deleted it. There was nothing left to understand. A week later, we toured a small yellow house with a lemon tree in the yard. Eli ran ahead, shouting, "Can we live here?" Daniel looked at me, smiling. "We can if you say yes." I nodded. For the first time in a long time, the yes felt like mine to give. As we walked back to the car, Eli plucked a small green lemon from the branch and handed it to me. "Keep it, Mom," he said, "for luck." I tucked it into my pocket. It felt heavy, real, alive. By that Friday, our offer was accepted. When I told Eli, he jumped into my arms and whispered, "Can we bring the Legos?" "All of them," I promised. Nothing left behind. That night, I stood by the window of our old house one last time. The streetlight reflected off the brass key still sitting in the drawer. I left it there, a relic of access they no longer deserved. Freedom doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it slips in quietly, disguised as paperwork and a lemon tree. And that quiet, it finally felt like peace. 2 weeks after we moved into the lemon tree house, peace began to feel normal. Eli spent his afternoons in the yard planting carrot seeds. Daniel painted in the sunroom again for the first time in years. And I started writing small journal entries about calm, something I'd never thought I'd have to learn. But peace, I've learned, always tests you. It was a Tuesday evening when the test arrived. There was a knock at the door, slow, tired, and familiar. Daniel looked through the peephole and turned to me, voice low. "It's them." My heartbeat slowed, not sped. I nodded. "I'll handle it." When I opened the door, my family stood there, my parents, my sister Laura, and her twin boys. They looked worn out, clothes rumpled, exhaustion replacing pride. Behind them sat an old SUV packed with boxes. My mom spoke first. We didn't have anywhere else to go. Laura's eyes were red but dry, the kind that had cried all they could. "The storage unit raised the price again. The daycare's been calling. I didn't know what else to do." For a heartbeat, I saw her as a child again, frightened, small. But then I remembered the Facebook post that declared she didn't have a sister anymore. The memory settled like armor. "You shouldn't have come here," I said softly. "You know why." My dad stepped forward, the same edge still clinging to him. "We're not asking for much, Casey. Just a few weeks until we figure things out." "You had years to figure things out," I replied. He opened his mouth to argue, but my mom touched his arm. "Please," she whispered. "The kids need somewhere safe." Behind them, one of the twins clutched a stuffed animal missing an eye. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. Compassion and boundaries aren't opposites, though family likes to pretend they are. Daniel came to stand beside me, not between, just beside. "If you need to call a shelter or get help," he said evenly, "we can give you numbers, but you can't stay here." Laura's face twisted, half apology, half resentment. "You don't understand what it's like, Casey." I looked her in the eye. "You're right. I was never allowed to fall apart. I had to keep going, because someone always needed saving, usually you." She flinched, then whispered, "I'm sorry." I believed her, just not enough to reopen the door. "I forgive the debt," I said, "not the damage." My mom started to cry. My father turned away, pretending he didn't hear. Laura nodded once, slow, defeated. They gathered their boxes, their exhaustion, and their silence. Before she got into the car, Laura looked back. "You really won't help us?" I stepped outside, the porch light flickering between us. "I already did," I said. "For years. Now I'm helping myself." The door closed quietly behind me. No slam, no shouting, just the sound of finality landing soft as dust. Through the window, I watched their car pull away until its taillights disappeared. The days that followed were heavy but clear. Eli never asked who had come to the door. Maybe he knew. Maybe he didn't need to. He was too busy checking the garden each morning, waiting for the first sprout of green to break through soil. One afternoon, he shouted from outside, "Mom, look!" A tiny stem had pushed up through the dirt, thin but alive. I knelt beside him, dirt under my nails, sun on my face. "You did that," I said. He grinned. "We did it." Daniel brought out lemonade, smiling at us under the lemon tree. Its branches were heavy with fruit now, bright, stubborn proof that something planted with care can thrive anywhere, even in soil once dry. That evening, I sat on the porch, the scent of lemons and fresh paint mingling in the air. I thought about my parents. about all the years I spent trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. People think cutting off family means slammed doors and shouted words, but the truth is, the real ending is quiet. No more waiting for calls that never come. No more rehearsing explanations they'll never hear. Just living. Eli curled beside me on the porch swing, half asleep. "Mom," he murmured, "are we staying here forever?" I brushed his hair back and smiled. "As long as we want to." He nodded, eyes closing. The cicadas hummed their steady summer song. Daniel switched off the porch light, and for a moment the world was nothing but the sound of night and the heartbeat of peace. Silence used to scare me. Now it's my favorite sound.